Hello, hello, hello. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another live stream. So make sure everything is looking good. No drop frames. Let me know if this mic is good. I got a new mic. Make sure we're good. So I'm gonna be testing that out. Been trying to get this audio right, and I've been getting some comments, some past videos saying that the audio has been low. So if the audio is still coming in low, be sure to let me know, and I'm gonna try to get that worked out. But I think that this new mic will do a better job of capturing than the other one did. So we shall see. I might give myself a little extra boost here just in case, because it is late on a Sunday afternoon, late on a Sunday evening, and my voice is probably not going to carry super far. Let me give myself a little boost because I can already feel it. Let me make sure that we got audio sounding decent. Let's try that and see what we got. Chat. Okay, yeah. I think we should be fine because I'm getting around -10 to -5 dB. Yeah, I think we're good. That sounds pretty good, actually. I'm liking this. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop into it and see what we got. So today, we're going to be messing around with some footage, some iPhone footage that my friend Will over at Quiverful Productions, shout out to him. He'll probably be in the chat later. This is actually his idea. He had a question that he sent me. He said, "Hey, you streaming, bro?" I was like, "I don't know. I might be streaming." Then he hit me with it, and I said, "All right, I'm gonna hop on. Let's do it." But yeah, so basically, what we're gonna be kind of looking at is an interview that he did. So this is Will. Shout out Will, Quiverful Productions. He was at the NRB conference that just happened in Nashville, and he was doing some interviews on an iPhone, and let me turn this down. He was doing some interviews on an iPhone, and you can kind of look at the background. It actually doesn't look too bad, to be honest with you. I know it's very run and gun, but if you can kind of see, the iPhone will try to, adjust, but their faces definitely are darker than the background because they're heavily backlit. And, he knew that that's what the situation was. You just kind of try to, in situations, do the best you can with the environment that you are in. So what we're going to try to do is basically a couple different things. I can try to isolate him, maybe draw a mask on him to bring up the levels on his face to try to counteract that, try to hit the background. So I'm gonna try a couple different ways. We might hit some magic mask, but I think what I'm probably gonna do is magic mask, and I'm probably gonna do depth map. But before we do those, we want to try to see what we can hit as simple as possible. So y'all know my philosophy on things. I like to try to do things in the most simplest way possible. This is already in Rec 709, but we can change it. We can change that. So before we get too far, I've told you guys in the past I like to work in Aces. I'm going to do a quick conversion. And this is kind of just give you an idea of what you can do with footage. Even if it's Rec 709, you can put it into a color space that you want to work in. So I'm going to just keep it mad simple. This is not typically how I would do it, but it's only one clip anyway. So I'm going to just, hold on, let me do this before I start doing all that. We're going to do our conversions really quick. Let me check the comments. He said, "Amen." Shout out Will. Let's see what we got. All right, so I like to work in Aces. Again, I'm probably one of the only YouTubers who like to work in Aces. I just started. That's why when I started doing bigger projects, that's why I started color grading in, and I'm fine with how it works. I know not everybody likes it, but I like it. I don't think it's that people don't like Aces. I just think that DaVinci Wide Gamut is just becoming more popular because most people color grade in DaVinci Resolve. But Aces is actually it's supposed to be the standardized color space. So that's what it was created to be. But anyway, So basically all we're doing, I'm just putting this. I don't have to convert it from like into iPhone accurate. It's Rec 709, so we're just gonna basically take it from Rec 709, put it into Asus while I'm doing all my color, and then put it back out to Rec 709. I feel like I've been on an extended break, so I'm trying to get my brain back into it. All right, let's see. Input transform. Output. Yeah, we want to output the rest of it. All right, so we really could just leave it where it is, in all honesty. But we're going to put it. We want it to go into Asus CCT. Actually, because they don't have. I need to do this. I think that's how DaVinci Wide Gamut works. Let me do this. Let me just make sure I'm not messing this up. Inverse P3. Yeah, I don't think I need to. I think I can leave it like that. I'm just gonna mess it up. I just wanted to make sure because the color space transform, the CSTs and the ACEs do things differently. So sometimes I double check to make sure I'm not missing, but I don't need to. Well, that's gonna be inverse. We don't want that. I'm gonna leave it like this. And then we're gonna go out from Asus. I've showed you guys this before, but you basically put it in and then it comes back out essentially. So if I turn these off, you see what it looks like. That's what it's looking like. And then we're coming back out. So in the middle is where the Asus workspace is happening at. Let me just go ahead and put it. So yeah, that's the problem actually, because I'm doing that. So that means, and I do this. There's so many ways to do things, so I'm just double checking a few things to make sure that I'm getting the accurate. I want to see how this responds. Okay, yeah, there we go. I do my double checks. That's with nothing. Yeah, so we're back. Sometimes I do this to make sure that I'm good so I can compare, and we see that we're back into, the proper look we're supposed to have. So nothing drastic changes in how it looks because I basically take it from Rec 709, put it into Asus, and that's when you saw it looking kind of log-ish. And then I took it out of that from Asus and put it back into Rec 709 for its display. So basically in the middle is where all the magic happens. But I'm having everything set. So all my wheels and everything I'm touching and moving, it'll be responding in that color space essentially. Because if you don't, sometimes you'll start tweaking certain things that you're used to things working a certain way, and they won't work that way if you're in a different color space. I always do this. You want to label. It's a good practice to label because you don't want to get confused later. Let me call this 709 out. So you create your pipeline the way you want to create it. Like I said, typically I would do, if it was a whole lot more footage, I would do things differently, but this gives you a good visual map of essentially what's before I start going into everything else, we're going to do this basic exposure. And I want to see how close I can get it, just doing it this way. How much separation we can get. Like I said, my philosophy in color grading is always to try to do things in the most simplest way possible. So the goal is we want to get that background down, but obviously we don't want to do global in this case because it's not going to, it's going to bring everything down. And it looks like the highlights are pretty much, that the bright points are pretty much gone in terms of detail. So you can kind of see if you look over at my scopes, I think my box might be covering it. But you can see the top end. So where my face is, but up here, that's everything that's going on back here, and you can see it coming down, and but so you can kind of see what's happening visually on the waveform there. I'm gonna mess with the light. Okay, so usually I try to hit that first, and that's really not doing what we want either. There's not enough separation, and I mean, it's an iPhone, and it was shot Rex 109, so it's not going to be a whole lot of dynamic range for us to play with. I mean, it does pull it down some, but there's not a lot of light on them to separate. So it looks like the best bet is going to be trying to separate them from the background. So I'm going to go ahead and do... Let's see. I'm gonna chop this up because it's gonna be this is probably pretty long. Okay, I'm gonna just use a section because otherwise we'll be sitting here forever waiting for this thing to. I'm gonna use a couple seconds. How long is this? That's what, 28 seconds. So let's go ahead. Let's just use this part. Okay. And this actually might be a good spot because we got a lot of stuff happening here. I wanted to kind of grab a part of him talking to. Let's see. A lot of movement. Is that 28 seconds of footage? This dude, I know he was mad. This dude just popped up like, oh, what's going on? In and out. All right, I'm going to use that bit because I want to see, what's that, 4 seconds? Let's get 10 seconds. Oh, that's good enough. All right, I'm going to go ahead and chop that. All right, cool. All right, we're going to use this middle one. Okay, so let's go ahead and do Magic Mask first. See how that holds up. That's usually the first stab when I know I got to do a whole situation. You would not usually try. We got 2 subjects in the scene. I wouldn't try to grab both of them. It might work, but then you also have 2 different skin tones. So what I want to do is probably do 2 separate versions. So I'll do one pass with this dude and then one pass with Will. So I like to hit Shift H to make the mask pop up so you can see what's being masked, and I can make sure that it's grabbing only the section that I wanted to grab, and I can see that it is indeed doing that. So we're letting it do its thing. Your hardware will factor into how fast it moves. I'm using my personal computer. The one I use for work is way faster than this, so I also need to upgrade my personal stuff because when I start trying to do heavy stuff like this, it can get tedious if your hardware is not there. So it's saying it's going to take it 4 minutes, so we're going to have to use a smaller section. I'm going to be upgrading this year. That is for sure. So let's just grab, I don't know. I wanted to get this guy in there too. So let's just grab a second of it. And let's see what we got. Yeah, we'll just grab this a little bit. I want to make sure that I'm actually seeing. Okay. Let's take those off. All right, so we're on this one. Yeah, that's the one we want. All right, we're going to make sure we grab him. And I like to do a couple points just to give it, just to give Resolve something to work with. This should not, how long is this? That's 2 seconds, so it shouldn't be too bad. I don't know, 10 seconds was taking 4 minutes, so. It's all good, yeah. We're rolling. It's all good. But yeah, that's another thing. When you're, you just kind of work with what you have. And that's one reason to try to do things as simple as possible. Because when you're not, stuff like AI Magic Mask and these things are super pro level features and are things you typically don't want to have to mess with on something that it doesn't need to be on. So it's like project by project, and then sometimes you might say, okay, this is not worth the time cost, but it might be worth time cost depending on what you're trying to do. So that's why we went ahead and dropped it down to 2 seconds. Because I definitely have pushed my computer, though. I tell you what, this thing was a lot faster when I first got it, but it's definitely showing its showing its age. But in fairness to my Mac Mini, your hardware fits where you are, so you can kind of see like how it holds up until you start doing more complex stuff. All right, so we got this dude Stewart. So let me just say that for him, and then make this other one for Will. Now this dude in the background, I'm gonna see. We might be able to get away with not doing him. I know I'm gonna have to grab Will separately, because if I don't, he's gonna get darker, and we don't want that to. I'm just laughing because I could already hear him making a joke about what I just said, and now I'm gonna hear about it later. But we don't want him to get dark with the background as well. All right, Magic Mask does a good job, to be honest with you. But yeah, I wanted to do it 2 ways. So we're gonna do Magic Mask first, and then I'm gonna do Depth Map. Shout out to my dad in the comments. Or do Depth Map, because then you kind of can see it. I think in this case, because we have 2 people, that Depth Map will be the better way to go about it. But you know me here, I like to show multiple ways to do things, because he said, I don't mind, I'm fake light. I don't, I prefer, Depth Map might be a better use case because I got 2 people. So we'll play with that one too and see how it works. All right, so this is almost done chugging along. Like I said, DaVinci Resolve does a pretty good job, but your hardware definitely will affect what you got going on. So what we're going to do now is, I think I just found a cool trick, and I'm going to show y'all if it works. It might not work, though. I'm going to try to see if I can compound these. Okay, let's see. Let's see if it works. I may have just showed y'all a hack. If it works. All right. Let me see something. That's going to affect everything, isn't it? Nah, okay. I thought I found a hack, but I don't think it's going to work that way. I was going to try to compound the 2 of them so you could affect, but it's not going to work like that. So let's undo that. That's fine. We're good. All right, cool. So what we're going to do now, see, already I'm thinking as I'm going through, I don't think that this is going to be the best way to do this, because part of the problem, and I'll show you, that I'm seeing is, what I'm going to do is invert the mask, and off top, it's going to do what we want. Like, you can see the background coming down, and that's exactly what we wanted to do. The problem is, it's going to affect everything else too. So we can pull the background down quite a bit, and it's actually looking a lot better, honestly. But like I said, it's bringing him down and everything in the scene. I'm like, I wouldn't really prefer that. And the problem is because I have 2 of the same. I have another idea. Let me see if I get rid of this one, and then if I do a parallel node. No, I don't think a parallel node would be the way to handle that either. It might be. This is honestly the fun part for me, because it's like problems. So you literally are problem solving, And it's not that none of the, it's like I'm thinking, once I start something, I'm thinking about how it's going to affect me going down the line. And then that's when you start thinking, okay, can I get away with it with a serial node? Like, nah. Will a parallel node fix it? It's like, maybe. Will a layer node fix it? And then you can kind of really start to, do some different things. And layer node, I don't really think a layer node would work in this case either. So basically, we've already started trying to go down this route, and I know Will tested this. I don't know what he ended up doing, but basically, I would have to make another. I want the background, so I probably would just need the only thing I would need to be able to do is try to grab both of them, and maybe I'll try that now and see if I can get it to work, because it might be able to grab both of them. That's the only other thing I can really try. And that's going to probably be the best case scenario. And sometimes that works. It doesn't always work, but we'll see how it does. So I added another subject into it, and I can already see the mask starting to mess up a little bit. So that's part of the problem that you run into. But essentially, this will do what we're wanting it to do, and then you would go in and clean it up. But I'm still thinking that it's probably not the best case scenario. But yeah, this is the what was I saying about? I was talking about the computer. Yeah, so like with a computer, it's all about what you want to do. Like when you're really just doing like simple tweaks, um, even simple mask. Like if I just took a little mask and tracked it, those things tend to work pretty well. These more AI intensive ones are really computer hungry. All right, so you can kind of already see the issues that we're having. So we have these little spots where the mask is not doing its job very well. So you see it's kind of like it's lost steward spots, and I can try to, you would then now kind of go in and keep clicking to try to get it to read them both properly, but you want to keep it from grabbing anything else. And in the edges of his hair, it's like not really working out that well. So we would track that again. You just kind of do a couple different iterations until you can get it. But while I have it frozen here, I'll at least will play with the background and turn this on and off. So you see where the background was and where we got it to. So in theory, it does work. It's just now trying to play it out and see how things look, which can be kind of wonky. But we tried that. Now let's go ahead and mute this. And I'm going to do, let's reset that. I'm going to do depth map. And depth map is another masking, another way of, it's not really masking, but it's kind of like another way of masking. And this is not one I've used a lot, to be honest with you. I really just used it for the first time on a project I just did color grade. I just color graded a short film. I just finished that last week or a couple weeks ago. And I was trying to do Magic Mask thing. I was like, the same kind of situation. And I was like, this is just too much. So I ended up doing this. And basically, I'm still trying to understand this all the way fully to myself. But you can adjust, you can basically tell it what sections you want it to grab. So you can change your far limit, and I can make it grab different elements. And then you have near limit, and I can tell it what parts of the scene to grab. So you can see the things in white are what are really being grabbed. This program honestly is probably like, this might be better than Magic Mask. As much as I like using Magic Mask, this might be a little bit better. Magic Mask is nice because you can literally tell it, just grab this. This one, you can't isolate it as perfect, but I think it's better for a broader stroke, which in this situation might be what we need. You can adjust your gamma and kind of tweak it. So, you kind of do your feathering, your finessing, your isolation tolerance. So I can really you can lock it in. It looks like even almost to like certain gradients, because you see it's not grabbing one full person. The tolerance, so you can really come in here and dial it in. Like it's grabbing everything but the stuff that's the closest. So I'm gonna turn that off, the isolation. So you can really get in there and start messing with stuff. And then post-processing, we'll play with that once we see the results. But I think depth map might be where it's at. So I'm going to switch quality to faster just because my computer struggles at the moment. It struggles. You can see the depth map preview. You can invert it. So, yeah, we're gonna need to invert. So I got them, but we're gonna need to invert it because we want the background to go down. So, but this is cool though because I grabbed them. I don't want them to be affected for a fact. So I guess I could also do it this way. You can kind of like, I want to like get, nah, see that doesn't really work that way. So yeah, we're going to go back to how we had it. We're going to go make sure we got them isolated, get them in there, and then we're going to invert. So now it'll affect everything else except for them. And then I can play with it a little bit more to try to get less of our subject in there. All right, cool. Now let me turn this off so I can see what I'm doing. It's still affecting it. I just turned the preview off and I did already invert it. So what should happen now is when I start messing with stuff, it should grab, yeah. Oh, this stuff is so cool. So this is why I like doing this type of stuff. But now you're seeing that it's affecting the parts that we basically set for it to grab with the depth map. And the fact that it can read, I'm telling you, man, it's crazy. The fact that it can read that and see that scene, I'm telling you, man, technology is crazy. So that's global. I mess with global. I can do light as well. Sometimes when you start pulling the light down a lot, you gotta watch for like contrast issues. Like things will start looking super flat because you're like crushing everything so much. But you can kind of just play with it and see what the look is you're getting. Like I said, I like to do things in broad strokes, so I want to see if this is helping. Global is pulling it, but it's not pulling enough of the top off for me. So light pulls more, and then you can also switch over to highlight. Highlight tends to be very, very, very minute. It's like you can't even really see it. It's doing something because you can look at the waveform and see, but it's not really picking up that information. The camera's not really giving us that. And I'll pull a little bit of that down. So, you might say that's doing too much, but it's all about what you're looking for. And then I'm going to let me get rid of these. I'm going to just play that a little bit. And the mask is holding up very well, honestly. I mean, yeah. So I think it's kind of outdoing in this scenario. I think it's outdoing the Magic Mask, to be honest with you, because I'm not even seeing like weird artifacting. We were getting weird artifacting on his shirt. Edges were looking kind of odd. The only thing that to me is making the edge look a little bit unnatural is that I know for a fact that I'm looking at it and I can see the line. But if you just popped in, most people wouldn't notice it. Like you see around here, you can kind of see the light. Looks a little bit unnatural, but it doesn't look bad. And then we can come to back over here to the depth map preview, and you can kind of see the edges. And what we can do is go to our map finesse, and then we can start doing post-processing and blur some things, play with the post filter a little bit to try to clean that up a little bit more. So you kind of just play with it how you want. I think I'm gonna go for blur, so it gives it a more natural kind of roll off. That's why I try to make things look as natural as possible. So let's go ahead and just do a little blur. You don't want to overdo it because then like you see how it has like this halo effect that it starts doing, and sometimes blur doesn't always work that well. It starts looking a little bit weird sometimes, but you can kind of like go in a little bit, but that starts looking kind of weird too. Post-processing, try to clean that up. But like I said, we know we're looking at it. Most people aren't going to sit there and notice that. Most people aren't going to just sit there and notice that in a video. So let me make sure the stream health is good. Okay, yeah, we're so good. I wanted to make sure that the stream health was doing all right. Okay, cool. Yeah, so all right. We got the background down a lot significantly, and they're more level, really. I'm gonna show you something you can do. This is pro tip. Let me get rid of that. I don't have it on my time. Yeah, I'll put it on the timeline. We'll do it like this. It's fine. It's not a big deal. I'm gonna just add. I'm gonna give away a little secret here. Some sauce. Just for my YouTube audience, I'm gonna give y'all a little something that I just discovered recently that I'm mad I didn't already know was in there. We got false colors in here. I know sometimes false colors can freak people out, but if you know how to read false colors, and my videographers, my camera people out there, y'all see this is gonna change some stuff. Y'all gonna be like, oh my gosh, because y'all know. Camera people who use false colors, it's chef's kiss. It's just, false colors is a game changer. I remember when false colors first became a thing. Well, I won't say first, but I remember when false colors was, becoming more popular. I don't know how long false colors has been out. I feel like I might see Will's reaction. I know, bro. I was mad when I found out about it. And I just found out about it very recently. I'm kind of embarrassed to say how recently it was, but I just did it. The last feature that I just finished editing, that's the first time I used it, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I didn't already have this. But I'm gonna show y'all because you can go in and start tweaking it a little bit more too. When did false colors come out? No, wait, what? Oh, that's a movie called False Colors. I said 1943. I was like, bro, ain't no way. Hold on. False Colors. I don't even know how to search that. When did false colors for cameras become, I'll say, common? Let's see. In the 1960s? See, they didn't understand what I'm asking. It's talking about I'm gonna have to look that up later. If anybody knows, let me know. I'm just trying to see. But I know it hasn't been a thing for that long. I've been doing camera stuff. I guess date myself a little bit, but I've been doing camera stuff back before we had before we were doing it on SD cards. When we was doing it on DV cams. I'm not that OG, so I wasn't shooting on film and stuff, but I was shooting on them little tapes, and we didn't have we weren't putting SD cards in the computers. We had to hook them up into tape decks. And what was that thing, like batch capture stuff? Yeah, for the people who did new stuff back in the day, if you know, you know. But yeah, you can come in and make so if you're shooting on Blackmagic, you can make it specific to your Blackmagic camera. I wish they had other types of cameras in here, but they don't. But you can create your own. You can tweak it basically and do your own. You can hit creative, and now you can come in and customize it. And I just laugh every time I do this because I'm like, it's such a game changer. It's ridiculous. But it has some presets you can use, and I forget which one I used. I made one. But anyways, yeah, you can come in here and you can start, you can tell it what you want, exposure guide, and it's just like false colors. I'm like, if you a camera person, you look at your scale here and it'll tell you. And you can change these colors out and stuff. If you don't like some of the colors that are in there, you can change the value to percentages to normalized. I don't like reading it that way. I do it in this way so I can know what range I'm in. Show value, show labels. So this will actually tell you if you're here, if you're at 100, white is clipping, 90 is near clipping, typical stuff. Your middle gray, Your one stop. Oh, I love that they say one stop. This is just for cinematographers and camera people. This is like when you get into the nerdy stuff. Start talking about middle gray. One stop over middle gray. It's like, oh, music to my ears. Especially people who used to use light meters like I did. That's how I learned. I learned using light meters. So I didn't come up on false colors. But now that false colors are a thing, I love false colors. Black detail loss, so you can answer those questions with like, oh, is that gone? And you ever wondering like, oh, I don't know. I think we can still save. You can say no, black detail at pink is lost. We don't got more detail. And if someone's telling you, oh yeah, we're still good, you're like, no, it's 100. It's red. It's clipping. Once you go past 90, it's gone. People sometimes try to be like, oh, the camera has 14 stops of dynamic range, so we can do it. No, you can't. Don't listen to them. You can't do it. It's gone. If it's over 90, it's gone. That's my little side rant. Because I've done DIT before too. So it's my little side rant. It's gone. Don't try it. If you're past 90, you can't save it. Just don't mess with it. Don't do it. Someone's going to probably come for me and say, technically, real world, you got to be in a real world. You can't be on camera specs just because the camera has 14, 16, 20 billion stops of dynamic range. You still have to real world application it, and you can't overexpose stuff and underexpose stuff. You got to properly expose things unless you're shooting raw. But yeah, so middle gray, so all that stuff is cool. So now you can see, I brought all that up to show you that we can see the range of what we got. So let me turn off what we did. And you can see now what we did not save anything. That information's gone. So everything that's red was clipping, it's gone. I brought it up so we can see in real time how many, what we did. Like what, not so much how many stops we brought it down to, but we can see because it's one thing to look at the waveform monitor, but the thing about it is I can see it, but it's like this gives you a visual even more so than the waveform monitor does. But because you can kind of tell, like if you scrub, you can kind of see who's moving, but it's just easier to get it's like I can't just look at this and tell you, okay, where's their skin tone at? I need to see what's moving on the waveform monitor so I can see it. And I know you probably can't really see the waveform monitor that much anyway because of my square box in the middle and at the bottom right. But that's why I like to use false color. And you just drop it in like a node and you just put it on there. And now I can visually see, okay, yep, this is what we're working with. And I can see, yep, I got that down. And I can compare it to their faces. So whereas it was here, we brought it down a little bit. And then if I want to try to push it more, I 1000% can do that. Make sure you click back on your depth map so you don't add this to that node. This is why you label. But I can just bring down that more and you can see it in real time. Now we're down in the 80 range and I can keep trying to pull it. If I want it to be the same, it's going to look funky, but theoretically I can keep pulling that down. It's going to start breaking the image, but I got that down to one stop over middle gray now. Their faces are still under, he's under middle gray. They just weren't, it was backlit. It wasn't lit for that. So their faces are kind of like in this 30, 20-ish near black lost detail. Not necessarily a wrong thing. It's just, the situation you have. Again, like I said, it looks funky. You don't want to do that. You're breaking your image. You're pulling it down so far that you're breaking the image. So you want to keep it in the spot where it looks somewhat natural, And then I can do that too, but now we're starting to look kind of unnatural and it's starting to look kind of trippy. It's like, what is happening? And then you got a lot of artifacting happening. So it's like you just want to be careful about some stuff. You don't want to overdo it because you get all this weird artifacts happening here because it's trying to fill the information with something. So yeah, we're going to undo that. Just to try to get it to look, again, we are definitely a lot better than where we were. The other thing I was going to say was something else you can do we did that, we can also go in and do some little relighting of our own. I don't want to say relight because there is a relight tool in DaVinci Resolve. I'm not going to even mess with that. It's going to open up a whole new thing, but you can technically relight stuff. But anyways, it's not something I don't really mess with that much, because you want to try to get stuff in camera. But I'm going to just add like a little, I don't know, I'm going to say mask. I'm going to call it PW for power window. And I'm going to just draw a little something on his face, a little something simple, just to bring it up a little bit so he's not so dark. And this is where, having, shooting in log and shooting with a higher bit rate comes into play, because you don't want to start breaking your image. But you can push 709. You can push rest of 709 a little bit. You don't want to do it too much, but you can do a little something. And, you want to do it in a way to where it looks natural, because that looks a little glowy, But, if you do something like that, you want to then try to find a way to bring back some natural. Yeah, so, you kind of fade it out, on, off. That's a little something. And in this case, what I would probably do is then also go to my primaries and I thought about something else you could do. Something you can do. So a cool way to, I'm making this on the fly, I just thought about something. A cool way to do something like this would be, let's say I want to do a couple of different things, and I literally just had this idea, and I'm a little bit mad at myself that I've never had this idea before. But what I'm going to do is make myself a compound node here. I'm going to do a couple of things. Yeah, I'm going to do two things. One for, is this going to work? This might not work the way I want it to work. I think it will, though. I'm going to create a compound node. And then I'm going to grab this again. And basically what my plan is I can go into my compound node and have multiple effects happening to his face, so I don't have to do everything on one node. Not that you couldn't, but like I always like to say, it's nice to be able to have things on different nodes so you can turn things on and off easily, change stuff without having to hunt it down. Okay, now we don't want to do that. So I'm going to go inside of this now, and now I'm going to affect that. Let's see this. Yep, it worked. I was nervous. I didn't know if it was going to work. But it, even inside the compound node, it knows where the mask is. So, well, so we trust you, LOL. Well, so far, so good. So basically, you can kind of see the mask where it is. So I'm doing that, brightening his face up. I did too much. But basically, what I was trying to do was show y'all like something I would do in a situation. And then now I go over here. So we'll call that light. And then this one I might add a little contrast to try to bring some, so it looks more natural. You see how he looks kind of washed out before? Now if you look closely, his skin looks kind of palish compared to everything else. I'll do stuff like add a little contrast just to kind of even that out. Super simple. Nothing crazy. There's not a whole lot. Like I said, this is probably 8-bit. I don't know that for a fact. Just guessing. iPhone footage is probably 8-bit. Rec 709, you don't want to push it too much. You don't want to start breaking the image apart. I could do a whole lot of things. I could probably, let me get in here and try to do this with the scan and all that stuff. You don't want to overdo it. To come out of a compound, you can see it here at the bottom where you have like, it says compound node and then iPhone interview. So you can click on that, and you can also just click anywhere. You just click, I'm sorry, you do got to click on the name. I was wrong by anywhere. You just got to click on the name and it'll take you back out to where you were. bring you back out to this screen basically. So you can see your compound node. So all that was happening. So now that all those effects I made move with this mask, which is pretty cool. So yeah, it's a nice little hack for y'all, and I just made it up on the fly. I don't think I've seen that from anybody. So that's a IBZ Films original for you. I'm gonna track that really quick, and you see that you saw how my computer was struggling with the depth map. It didn't struggle at all really, and because it kind of just did. That's why I said the depth map was cool, because it kind of just does it. You don't need to track it like that. And then we got, it was the AI Magic Mouse was struggling, but a normal mask auto tracks pretty easily, pretty simple. It's not that crazy. But yeah, I just brought his face up a little bit, and yeah. If you want to do more, if you want to bring some more attention to them, something else, it just depends on stylistically what you're trying to do. Maybe I throw a vignette on, something like that. Yeah, depth map is crazy, because I just thought about the fact that we didn't have to track that. That's wild. When you think about it, like, you just pause and think, wait a minute, AI Magic Mask is having to track them to mask them out, which makes sense. Depth map is basically, it's like pulling a qualifier in a way. It's like going to a qualifier and pulling colors and doing like HSL, like going to your HSL sliders and just pulling colors. That's, the more I think about it, the more it's like, dang, that's blowing my mind a little bit. Like, I need to start using that more. If you learn anything from this video, use depth map and use false colors. Again, I'm so mad at myself that I found that out so late. But anyways, it's just like, bruh, what the heck was I doing? But yeah, so I pulled that down a little bit. What was I about to do? Oh, I'm okay. That's one thing. I messed with this and didn't pull that back down. That's one problem. Okay. Yeah. What was I doing? Oh, I was gonna do a vignette. That's what it was. You can do a vignette however the heck you want to do it. Like I sometimes have done it where I'll just pull another mask and I'll invert it, and then go to, whatever. You can go to your primary world, start pulling gain and stuff like that, and then you can see your circle. You can pull it and feather it out. That's one way. I've seen a lot of people do it that way. Recently, I've been a fan of actually just the built-in vignette that DaVinci Resolve has. You can grab that and just throw it on, and it's super heavy, but you can, like everything, adjust it. So let's see. You got a comment here. Apart from that, what do you think about FX30 camera? What do I think about the FX30? So my opinion is going to be just very peripheral, because I have never used that camera. But I just from understanding how cameras work and understanding the Sony lineup, I don't think there's anything wrong with the FX30. I think the FX30 is cool. You again, like anything when it comes to this filmmaking stuff, is you got to see if it makes sense for what you're doing. And you just have to make sure if you're coming from, it depends on where you're coming from, what world you're coming from too. If this is your first mirrorless camera that you're using, and maybe this is your first step into the Sony ecosystem, it might be perfectly fine. I would be mindful of the fact that it's not a full frame camera. It's Super 35. I'm saying that it probably is. It's APS-C. I'm being loose with my wording here. I'm pretty sure it's Super 35. You can fact check me on that, but it's not full frame. So, you have to measure that to see if that's going to be a problem for you. If you have other full frame cameras and full frame lenses, you might say, oh, no, I don't want to do crop sensor, and then you have to look at is S-Log3, what other factors it, slow-mo, compare it to something like the FX3, FX2, the Sony FX6. So you just have to make your decision on what's important to you. If full frame's not important to you, then it's probably a perfectly fine camera if you are shooting on crop sensor, APS-C style sensors anyway. Maybe it's not a big deal for you. But if full frame's a big deal, I would say, well, that camera's probably not going to work for you because it's full frame. So it's hard for me to say. I don't think there's anything wrong with the camera if it works for what you are doing, is I guess the short answer. You just got to know what works for you. I know of people who have used it. I've looked at a lot of reviews, and from what I've seen, it seems like it's a good camera. Like I said, though, you just got to make sure that you got to make sure that the drawbacks, which might not even be drawbacks for you. I don't know where you're coming from. If you're like, yeah, I'm trying to shoot these types of videos, I'm trying to do this type of stuff, then maybe, it might not be the best for you. So that's the vignettes on. You can throw a vignette on it just to kind of give it a little something, a little, I will say, okay, yeah, I see we got a little bit of auto lighting stuff happening. So that is the one thing with iPhone footage that can be tricky. You kind of have to just do your best with it. We fixed the exposure of the background, but the problem that we're running into is that throughout these shots, you will have, background changes, and the auto exposure was, changing based on what was happening with the sky. So it just depends on what you're trying to do. I'm completely lost my train of thought. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Another thing you could try to do, I don't think it would work in this situation, to be honest with you, but sometimes when there's a lot of stuff happening in a scene and I don't want to have to try to track, I will use another mask, and this one I like a lot. It's like a feathering one, like almost like a gradient. And this one's cool. I use this one a lot. Like probably every time I'm doing a film or of some sort, I'm using this. But I like to think of it as like a virtual flag if you are a film person and on set. Basically, what's gray is not getting affected. What you can see is getting affected. And you could do something like that, but it's also hitting his head. So basically just try to cover up the window or the open, but you can kind of see it. So you want to try to pull it to feather it out so it's not as obvious. You do something like that, but that also, like I said, might not really help this situation. It just darkens everything a little bit, but the sky's still doing its thing. You can also, something else I've discovered that helps, if you want to be more precise, you can invert it and make it hit just a certain area, and I can make sure it doesn't hit the top of his head, or very little of it does. But then, no, this is right. I just gotta flip it. I was like, wait, what? You just flip it. So it's literally not hitting anything on the other side of this arrow, on the other side of this mask. So literally I can really fine tune where I want it to go. So those are just different things you can do, different tricks. But again, I don't think it's going to help that situation that much. This is with this one, and all realisticness, it's probably one we'll have to kind of just live with certain aspects, because you're not going to be wanting to sit here and keyframe this whole video to try to keep the background at a certain level. Because if you look over at our waveform, I know my face covers it. If you look over at our waveform, you can see as you scroll through, the exposure go up past 90 and back to 100 at times. And that's just based on the sky and what was happening outside. Got another question or a comment. If you hold down and tap on subject, the exposure can lock, but I didn't do that. If you hold down and tap on subject, the exposure can lock. I'm not sure. Are you talking about the which node you talking about? Are you talking about? I'm trying to remember. I should have looked at the comments sooner, so I don't know what point you were talking about that. If you hold down and tap on subject. Oh, on the phone. I got you. I see what you're saying. If you hold down and tap on subject, the exposure can lock. But I didn't do that. Okay, I see. That's actually cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know that the iPhones did that. Well, that's cool. I thought you had a trick in the result. I said, oh, well, yeah, let me know. I said, what you talking about? You got locked in. But I was about to say, oh, shoot, we got a game changer right there. Yeah. But, yeah, perfect world situation, then yeah, he's right. If you you can lock the exposure. But to go back to what we had, let's on and off everything. This is where we were. And again, it's not the end of the world. I do feel well though, like being a camera person and wanting things to be exposed properly. I see the imperfection there, but the iPhone doesn't do too bad. We can see them. It's not like they're completely dark. Your eyes do go to the background, but like I said, depth map, I pushed it aggressively, so you probably don't want it to be this dark because it's gonna start looking like, oh, what in the world is going on here? Like, what happened in this scene? But it does, take some of your attention off the attention off. You can kind of, I can back off of that like a good amount, and that make it so heavy, and it still does something. It brings the background down a little bit. I think that's a little bit more natural, and honestly helps a little bit. Like I said, I brought his face up too, so that helped. Dang, look at his face there versus there. You can definitely see him. And then the vignette helped too a little bit. It kind of just draws your eyes away. It's cutting off some of that. It's not everything, but vignettes kind of help draw your eye anyway. And you can make the vignette stronger. I just, lessened it because I don't like seeing heavy vignettes. It's just, personal preference. But, yeah. But let's see. Okay, yeah, so yeah. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and that'll go ahead and wrap it up for this one. But I think this was a cool, workaround. Some ideas of what you could do in this type of a situation. If you were, a lot of times, we don't always get perfect ideal stuff we got to work with, especially if you're an editor, you get stuff from a client. It may not be the perfect, situation, but you want to try to do your best to fix things as best as you can. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. This man's a pro. And make sure you check out Quiverful Productions. He's doing great stuff over on his channel. He does a lot of lighting tutorials and things like that, but he also does amazing interviews as well with people in the industry, which is what this was one of the interviews he's doing. So make sure you stay tuned to his channel. If you are wanting to get inside knowledge from some of the professionals in the industry, definitely check out his channel. But yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. And thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for watching. I'm getting tired. You can hear it in my voice. I'm losing my energy. But yeah, be sure to stay tuned. I'm going to announce it at some point, but I am planning on doing a week-long, I'm making that sound like a stream, like a streamathon, I guess, but like a full week of streaming at some point soon, hopefully. So I stream like at least an hour or hour or two a day for at least a week. So I'm going to be putting out some more information about that. So if you have questions and things that have been bothering you, DaVinci Resolve, you can get specific with it and let me know. But anyways, I appreciate everyone for being here, and stay tuned. Until next time, peace.